Brodes Media.
Another game where I have to think about how much the Sixers are actually up because it's such an obnoxious amount that I have to do math, and I can't even tell you the last time I had to do math, so now my brain is all jumbled. But here's what I know. The Sixers are unbelievable when it comes to this matchup right now. The Toronto Raptors are so desperate that Nick Nurse is actually losing credibility in my eyes because it's getting kind of embarrassing. Look, after game one, I wasn't hating the fact that he said a couple things or whatever, just because I understand what working the referees are all about. But then he did it again, and then he did it again, and then he did it again, and then he told Siakam to go after Joel Embiid with the hard foul, and he told OG Anunoby to go after him. So he basically admitted, we have zero answers. Our only hope is to be so damn desperate that we have to cry all day long, every moment we can, to hope and pray that the referees change. But there's no reason to change because reality of the situation is they don't have a chance of stopping someone who's better than they are. It's just that simple. If you watch this game play out, I don't understand how Raptors fans can honestly believe the reason why Joel Embiid is going to the free throw line is nothing other than there's no one on the Raptors roster who can do any sort of damage against Embiid, and Embiid is a better and bigger talent who's working harder and accomplishing his goal, which is establishing low presence and making sure that guys are found. If there's a craft and there's an ability to draw fouls, and when you're 7'2", it makes it that much easier when you have the bag of tricks that Joel Embiid has. So when he misses his first initial shot, grabs the offensive rebound. This is after Matisse Thybulle. This is in the first quarter or so, where Matisse Thybulle gets a big block. Here go the Sixers out in transition. They dump it into Embiid in the post on the block. He misses, gets the rebound, puts it back up, and one. And he's all fired up, getting the crowd going. 19 points in that first quarter, finished with 31. It was ridiculous. And if I was a fan of a team that was playing the card that Nick Nurse is, I'd be like, dude, shut up. It's just getting brutal. How can you honestly support that every single time something goes wrong, that you're complaining it's everybody else's fault? Isn't it kind of obvious? Isn't it anyone's... I mean, how does anyone watch this and think anything other than we do not have the answers to solve the equation? That's what's going on right now. And that's just reality. Postseason ball is different than regular season ball. The Raptors are banged up, no doubt about it. But even if they were healthy, I don't think they have what is necessary to be able to exploit some of the Sixers' issues. Because right now, the Sixers are just literally flowing on all cylinders here. You look at the starters. Tyrese Maxey, his speed is unbelievable. His balls are huge. Here goes a run by the Raptors in the fourth quarter. I wasn't nervous. I figured they'd be okay. And of course, who but Tyrese Maxey hits a big three to stop the bleeding. He had a couple monstrous shots. How about he goes down? He stays on the court for a little bit. The broadcast goes to commercial break. This is right around when Joel Embiid's playing with his elbow. And of course, it has to be Matisse Thybulle, the unvaccinated one, who's going to be unavailable for you in the next couple of games as they go to Toronto, which is a big storyline. But oh, by the way, how about Danny Green not only dunking the damn ball and looking like he's 18 again, but he's cashing in big shots as well. And I was one of the ones to tell everyone, look, there's something to be said about the professionalism of Danny Green. There's something to be said about how long he's done this for, and he's been around the block. There's something to be said about the veteranness of him. And he's been very, very, very big in some moments here over the last handful of games, obviously. The first playoff game, it wasn't necessarily the case, but a couple games during that late stretch of the regular season, there was something that hit him big time internally when it comes to confidence, and you saw that today with not only the spacing, but the ability to drive and throw it down as well. But the point I was going at here is you look at the starting lineup and you have Maxey. You have Tobias Harris doing it on both ends, catching, shooting. And I love hearing quotes from him and hearing him discuss what was going on during the thought process of how his game needed to change, having some one-on-one meetings and figuring out what would be best. And it takes time for that to kind of happen. It's not easy. It's not simple. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to play minutes with one another. You have to figure each other out. You got to work on certain sets. James Harden. It's not even like James Harden had a big day at the office. He ended up clocking in, what was his stat line? 14-6. But that just shows you, if Harden has a 14-6 game, what was part of my philosophy of this series, right? You're going to have games where Harden and Embiid do their thing. You're going to have a game where Harden doesn't necessarily have a big one. But can other guys have big nights when that's the case? And they did. The whole team. Everyone kind of had their moments. Now, I thought George Niang defensively, when Pascal Siakam was on him, I cringed for a little bit of time. But the non-Embiid minutes with Paul Reed, they definitely won the battle there. And it really comes down to, once again, the Raptors do not have the options to force the Sixers to get uncomfortable. And that is so clear. That is so obvious by the road that Nick Nurse is taking. Have you ever heard Nick Nurse do this style? Have you ever heard Nick Nurse do this in years past when he had Kawhi Leonard, when he had Kyle Lowry, when he had that team going and when they were winning basketball games? The answer is no. And why was that? Because he knew he had a different team. Because he knew he could do things differently. This is pure desperation. This is, I have nothing else. This is my final card, and I have to put everything out on the table right now. This is everything I have. And I hate to break it to you, Nicholas, it's not enough. And the fact that he gets into it with Joel Embiid afterwards, it's like, enough is enough, dude. Enough is enough. You look like a loser. And I think that Nick Nurse is a fine coach. But this is a bad look for someone that, I respect a lot. It's like, dude, I'm losing respect for you for the angle that you're taking here. And just to put it in perspective of when I tell the world that NBA head coaching only goes so far, Nick Nurse, everyone before this series would say, is far superior and way better than Doc Rivers. And you could still say that's the case right now, 1v1. If you were just picking a guy to start a franchise, Nick Nurse, Doc Rivers, right? You want to throw up that in a Twitter poll? I bet you a lot of people say Nick Nurse. Who has the better talent and whose players are better? Ding, 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 ding. The Sixers are winning, not because of Doc or Nick Nurse screwing up or anything like that. It's because their players are executing. Their players are playing extremely well. And I didn't think it would look this good. If I'm going to be 1,000% honest, which I think everyone agrees that they probably thought it would be tough. They'd sweat it out. It would be a 6-game series. You'd have to earn it. And you still have to go to Toronto. So I'm not ruling out you're going away and it being a little bit different. And by the way, you're losing your best defender. But if you go 1-1 on the road and you come back up 3-1 in the series with a chance to close it out in your own barn, well, that's absolutely significant. And I think that could be the case where I didn't necessarily believe that before the whole series started out. But now that I'm seeing it, the Raptors just don't have answers. And when I saw Fred VanVleet start off insanely hot, he was making everything, making all the threes in the world. But then there was a sequence in that second quarter, and the Raptors actually got a couple offensive rebounds, which it was annoying and it was frustrating. And it went back to Fred VanVleet for 2 wide open looks from deep, and both of them were short and both of them were extremely off. You could just tell, yeah, okay, well, that was a cute first. But now, as the game is progressing here, Fred VanVleet don't have it. You're coming up short. You're missing that badly. All right, we'll see how those legs hold up. That's the first sign of your legs just not being there. And they had no answers from there. I mean, that's really the moral of the story. The Raptors do not have enough. And the Sixers are playing smart basketball. They're playing team basketball. And they're rolling. Pick your poison. Who don't you want to beat you? Joel. Okay. How about Maxey? Maxey's got balls, man. Maxey's got balls. He'll take anyone. He really will. He'll take any shot, too. He really will. Those threes are sensational. They're so beautiful to watch. The confidence level, the rolling to the basket full speed. Not rolling in sense of like a pick and roll. Rolling as in just going downhill is probably a better way to phrase things here. But when he gets the basketball in full transition mode, he's just going downhill and you can't stop him. You got Embiid playing defense too, doing work on the defensive side. You got him in terms of just transition ball too. You got Tobias working on both ends. You got to give a lot of credit to Tobias Harris. There was a ton of hate towards him. And I just knew deep down that there was a better version of Tobias Harris that we weren't necessarily getting. But I knew it was in there. I did. I knew that there was more. It just takes some tweaking. It takes some adjustments.